Before I bring out the last person, and I'm very excited to bring out, but before I do that, I wanted to just sort of come full circle from where we started on Tuesday afternoon, and just a couple quick observations. First and foremost, thank you for having been a part of this conversation. And I say that a lot, and every year, thank you for being here, thank you for stepping up. But this year in particular has been, as we all know quite well, a special year. And I think in some ways, what I've picked up from you over the past 3 days, which is so incredibly important, is the sense that coming together here has been very important to a lot of you, a lot of us. If you think about it, this is the first sustainable business conference since the election, definitely since the inauguration. And in some ways, and not to over-glorify or glamorize what's gone on here, but in some ways this is the parallel to the Women's March a few weeks ago, which is to say that a lot of people came together who were frustrated, concerned, angry, maybe despondent, or otherwise just needing hope, came together, looked around, and saw a lot of other people like them. And whatever else happened as a direct result of those marches, those rallies, that alone was such a critical thing, to just say, there's a lot of us out there. We need each other. We have to do stuff, and we can. And I get the sense from a lot of you that that was a part of your experience this week. And to that extent, thank you for stepping up and having that, for expressing that to us. And it's just the beginning of this conversation, obviously. We've got a long way to go. We don't know how many years, whether it's 1 or 4 or 8 or whatever, and probably many, one way or the other, that we're going to be dealing with, if not this current president, some president who is not going to be, and Congress, that are not going to be supportive of what we do. And I guess I just wanted to leave you with this thought of great hope for me, which is that, as I said on Tuesday, Donald Trump is sustainability stress test. But also, and it's a great challenge, and can we adapt, and can we be what we need to be? Can we step up in the ways we need to step up? Can we up our game collectively, individually, as a community in the ways that we need to do that? But I feel more and more that this moment has the potential to be our finest hour. This could define and will define everywhere we go from here. So I just want to tell you that I will leave here with a lot more hope, and I think some of you are too. And for that, again, one more time, thank you so much for being a part of these past few days. And with that, I want to bring out the last person we're going to have on this main stage, and somebody who, as you'll see in both performance and conversation, somebody who I think bridges the gap from systems thinking and intellect to communications and art and music and fun, and brings a measure to this party that we really need to have. You'll learn more, so I'm not going to tee it up too much. If you were at El Choro last night, you saw a performance of this song that AtKisson wrote called We Love the SDGs. He's got a lot more songs, and I've known him for a long time singing his way through the sustainability world. It's really kind of fun stuff. So with that, let me bring him out, first of all, to play one of his songs. Please welcome AtKisson.
How y'all doing? It's a little song called, it's to lift us up here at the end of our time together. It's called the Extinction Blues. The dodo bird's gone bye-bye. The great auk squawked his last. Chimpanzees endangered, and the whales are going fast. I got the extinction blues. Lord, where have your species gone? More from evolution, but it takes so gosh darn long. There's a single ashy dogwood growing on a Texas trace. When that lone tree dies, there'll be none to take its place. I got the extinction blues. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Lord, where have your species gone? We'll get more from evolution, but it takes so gosh darn long. The giant Stellar's manatee has quit the Bering Sea. The Carolina parakeet checked out and took the key. The tiny two-locks wallaby left his payments in arrears, and we'll never see another in 100 million years. Whoa, we must do something quickly about this terrifying trend, or the next endangered species will be Homo sapiens. I got the extinction blues. It's a bad case. Lord, where have your species gone? We'll get more from evolution, or maybe from the genetic engineers, so they can get their act together in a hurry, bring back the mammoth and the dodo and everything else. But it takes so gosh darn long. Woohoo!
We'll get, all right, no, we'll just set it down. Yeah, oh yeah. I'd like to introduce you to my two panelists. No. Thank you for that. I first heard you sing, it was almost 20 years ago. It was a Natural Step event in, I think Portland or Seattle, I think Portland. And my first reaction, frankly, was, who is this guy? I mean, he's, because, I like humor, I like to, integrate and engage in and entertain as well. But it's like, who is this guy singing songs? And why the heck are songs a part of this? We're talking about science and change and business and all this stuff. And of course, over time, it's like I totally really understand much more in my in my dotage here that this is a critical part of who we need to be and how we need to be. But talk a little about how did you get started? Because you've been, you go back to like me 25 or 30 years in this space consulting. You've written a number of books. You live in Stockholm, Sweden. You worked with United Nations organizations, European governments, and U.S. corporate. You've done a lot of things, but how do you bridge this gap between what you did here and the work that we're all doing?
Yeah, well, sometimes I don't, to be perfectly honest. I mean, there are certain situations where I keep it kind of a secret that I know anything about music. But what happened was, about 25 years ago exactly, I got invited to give my first opening keynote speech at a big international conference in Prague. And I was a late replacement for Wangari Maathai, the famous environmentalist from Kenya.
An ultimate Nobel Prize, Peace Prize winner.
Peace Prize winner, and she had been, she was an incredible person who had been jailed and beaten for her work planting trees and empowering women in Kenya, and suddenly I was going to replace her, this 32-year-old kid who had started an NGO in Seattle with some friends called Sustainable Seattle, working on indicators for sustainability. That's not going to be really sexy and not a really compelling replacement for someone like Wangari. So I thought, I've got to do something bold, at least that I can do. So I said, well, I'm going to take a risk, and I'm going to dredge up my background as a rock and roll musician from New York in the 80s, and I wrote a few songs, and I blended songs into my keynote, and it worked. And then I discovered something like you fortunately seem to approve of now, which is that there's a place for music and the arts and creativity, and in fact, sustainability is all about innovation and creativity. And so if we can't be a little bit breaking out of the box and showing that once in a while, then we're not really being bold. On the other hand, it requires a certain, if you're working on change issues in organizations, you don't start singing at the drop of a hat. I try to be pretty kind of thoughtful and tactical about when I do and when I don't use music.
Yeah, well, thoughtful and tactical is something that this crowd knows well in terms of the work that they do in their companies and with all the stakeholders and others that they touch. One of the things that you've spent a lot of time talking and working on and teaching, and I want to get into this because I think it is critical to this audience, is just what does it mean to be a change agent? And how do you do that effectively? And because I think that everybody has some version of knowing that we all are, can be, should be that, but not necessarily having the toolkit to get it done. Teresa, talk a little bit about the work that you've done in this space.
Yeah, sure. Thanks. Well, I mean, that's one of the topics that I'm most passionate about. I mean, I am a kind of science and strategy nerd when it comes to sustainability. But my early training in the field also exposed me to the social science around change and that whole concept of a change agent. We were writing articles about change agents as early as 1990 because it became clear to me that just knowing the technical solution to sustainability wasn't enough. You also had to figure out how to get the people you were trying to engage with to adopt this change, to actually adopt it. So I spent a lot of time studying innovation diffusion theory and change theory and started doing workshops about that and trying to really marry those two concepts and spend a lot of my time right up to the present moment.
We're going to do a few minutes to wrap.
Working with, for example, officials from African governments or Asian governments who are trying to introduce some of these concepts for the first time, and how do we help them work with incredibly resistant audiences, for example, or in corporations. I know a lot of my clients in corporations, they may be the CSO or the champion for sustainability, but they're bumping up against the CFO and the CEO or the board, and so how can they work that system more intelligently and creatively to bring change into it? That's crucial. I mean, we won't get anywhere unless we do that. So I really focus on that a lot.
So help us. What are you learning?
Well, I mean, there are two things to think about. One is whatever you're promoting as a sustainability solution, it's an idea, it's a thing, it's a technology, a policy, a new logistics solution. It's a new thing, and that thing needs to be presented in a certain way so it seems like what it is, a solution, something better than what's currently being done, and has to have benefits. I mean, it took us a long time to learn the language of economics and even just start talking about saving money rather than trying to save the planet. Saving the planet is really important, but you don't win the battle by only talking about that. So that's the first thing, is how do you pitch the thing? And then the second part is, who do you pitch it to and how do you pitch it? What's the culture? What's the language you need to speak? Sometimes you're not the right person to introduce that idea. Sometimes you've got to find someone else, a champion who helps you. So you tee them up and they go and run with it. And very often if you're the successful change agent, you end up being invisible in the process. And you have to be willing to be invisible in the process for that to work. But you also need to develop those qualities that build trust and build people's willingness to believe you when you say, this is a good thing.
And one of the things that's pretty much uniformly true about sustainability executives in big companies, and frankly, one of the reasons that I love them is that they are armies of 1 or 3 or 7 or people in multi-billion-dollar, obviously global organizations with obviously no resources or headcount and huge mandates.
Yeah.
Zero waste, 100% renewable, whatever it is, and both social and environmental. And so they operate out of persuasion and bridge building and communication, not obviously command and control. And as a result, they don't get the credit. And I think this is probably a really tough thing for a lot of people is because you need that acknowledgement, first of all, just for your own satisfaction, but also just to create the wins internally. So that sounds like a struggle there. How do you become invisible and effective at the same time?
Well, I mean, you don't want to always be invisible, but I mean, one of the reasons why I think people respond to such a gathering, this has been a fantastic gathering, by the way, is that sometimes the change agents just have to acknowledge each other. This is where you get the acknowledgement and the support and the accolades that you might not get on the job. At least it's important to create community around that. It's been very important for me. And get called out and shown. In fact, I wonder, is Scott Harmon still in the room? Scott, are you here? Because this guy did an amazing thing.
He is, but he's invisible, apparently.
Apparently, just to take 30 seconds on one person. Scott spent 3 years working with the Boy Scouts of America, got them to accept the idea of sustainability as a merit badge, and more to the point, it became a merit badge that you have to get in order to become an Eagle Scout. That means every Boy Scout in America. Yeah, isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
And if you look at the book they have to study to get that merit badge, I mean, most of us would not pass the test the first time through. It's circular economy thinking, it's ecological footprint, it's our agenda. And Scott, I wish you were here to get, if I had an award to give, I'd give it to you, because that kind of work, kind of invisible, slow work of patiently introducing ideas to often resistant audiences, getting them to see the benefit, and now he's cultivating tens of thousands of boys who are going to go off and be the leaders of the next generation, the Rex Tillersons of the future.
Sounds like we all need to get a merit badge here. Now, I actually have the books. Scott gave me one, and it is, I can tell you, it is complex, it's thorough, and it's probably one of the better sustainability handbooks that are out there, and frankly, because there aren't that many good ones. So how in all of this, because one of the things, many things we share, besides being musicians and being in this field and having parallel paths, even though we haven't personally been.
Yeah, you're a jazz pianist, right?
Been close all this time. Is hope and optimism, and being able to maintain that. How do you do that?
Well, like everybody in this room, not every day. But I've learned something. One of the benefits of being a little older in this field and having a few decades to look back on is that when you're looking forward and you see kind of really stormy, dark clouds, you can refresh your optimism by looking backward and remembering where we were 10, 20, 30 years ago. And those moments that really looked kind of bleak, and we know we actually got through a lot of those moments. Maybe not as fast as we wanted, but we got the SDGs, we got the Paris Climate Agreement, we got the big breakthroughs going on in green finance and green energy. I mean, the world is in a process of transformation now, and it's largely in that process thanks to the work of everybody in this room and the big community that we're just a piece of. That is what re-inspires me almost every day, as well as talking to the young people that we saw at this conference with their amazing new ideas. So I think there's extraordinary reason for optimism. You just have to take time to look at it once in a while. Although it's also important to sing the blues once in a while when things just really look bleak.
You were a student of Dunella Meadows. In fact, I think you credit a lot of, frankly, what you do to her. First of all, tell people who don't know.
Well, Dunella Meadows was the lead author of the book The Limits to Growth, which was a huge global bestseller in the 70s and really it was one of the few critical books that started the modern sustainability movement with its report on the first computer models on where the world was going, basically, and it wasn't looking good, so we needed to make a lot of change. And Dunella was a very gifted scientist who also became a journalist, and decided she needed to translate the science into words. And she became a mentor and close colleague and friend to me. And I still feel like I'm working kind of in her footsteps or standing on her shoulders with anything that I do.
We'll talk a little bit more about that specifically. What are some of the things that she brought to you that remain core to what you are and what you talk about and teach?
Well, we've talked about one of them, and that's optimism, but optimism informed by the facts. There's that fantastic poem by the American poet Wendell Berry called Manifesto of the Mad Farmer Liberation Front. I think it's a poem everybody would get a lot of encouragement from by reading it today in the current political climate. But there's just one line in there where he says, "Be cheerful, though you have considered all the facts." And that's kind of a line that I live by. So that optimism we were talking about and actively cultivating the sources of optimism is one a gift that Donella definitely gave me. But the other is the hard science. It's being grounded in the empirical reality and using systems thinking at whatever level we can do it, whether it's just understanding that this is connected to that or having the sophisticated PhD level modeling skills that some of my friends have. And systems thinking has been absolutely essential to anything that I've done in sustainability.
And what you're talking about, and you model this as well or better than anyone else I know, is this left brain, right brain, certainly the science, the music, the art, the synthesis, the ability to stay focused and directed.
That was all Donella, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so how, obviously not everybody can do that. We all struggle with some parts of that. What can you tell us that would help us down that path?
Well, actually, I think everybody can do that. I mean, I don't mean everybody should stand up and sing a song when they feel like it, but I think everybody can.
Wouldn't be the worst thing.
Well, especially in the shower, it might help everybody. But I think everybody has that something personal that's their skill or their quality that they may or may not be bringing to the table in that professional context. And that if they just took that one little risk and said, one of my friends is starting an international contest to write haiku poetry about the SDGs. Haikus are 17 syllables, there are 17 goals. This is a really fantastic idea. And where did he find a champion where you would least expect it? The former president of Europe, Herman Van Rompuy, is a haiku writer. So he's going to be the patron of this thing. So bringing when you open the door a little bit to a little creativity, I notice a lot comes out. And that's true, I think, for everybody.
Yeah, we talked when Peter Seligman and Leah Seligman were on stage, father-daughter, and talking about the role of family. It sort of brings a different version of a point that I hear here, which is that as passionate and intelligent as we are individually and collectively as a community and the topics of business and sustainability, we often forget to bring our personal selves to this task, this job, this career. And it feels like that's something that you've managed to do, that you advocate in being an effective change agent. Talk a little bit about the role of just sort of not just bringing your talents, but bringing yourself.
Well, I don't think one of the key things about being a change agent, maybe the crucial thing, is to establish a relationship of trust with the people you're trying to change, the systems you're trying to change. And you don't establish trust with data. You don't establish trust with your CV. You establish trust with that combination of your presence, your ability to listen, your ability to understand what the other person's doing, your authority, knowing, being very clear about what you do and don't know, and your history and what your background is, but also your willingness to try to make an impact. Those three things together, authority, presence, and impact, are a really good little tool for thinking about how to bring your whole self into the change process in a way that doesn't feel too loosey-goosey or psychological. These are three very clear qualities that we can all cultivate.
Authority, presence, and impact.
Authority, presence, and impact. A model that was developed by Peter Hawkins, a friend of mine in Bath, and promoted by my other business partner in Germany as well, Axel Klimek. We use that a lot. We just work with groups and help them to build their own sense of that. Who am I? What do I know? How can I be more here, really paying attention, listening, understanding the dynamics of this organization or this particular process? And then what can I do that's going to make that decisive change? Often it's a good economic argument, but once in a great while it's a song.
Yeah. Well, speaking of which, and we are out of time, are we okay for just one quick song? Would you do a song for us, one more? Can you handle that, guys? All right.
Sure.
Just, you have one?
Yeah, we were talking about Donella Meadows, and I really encourage people to go to danellameadows.org and find out about her. But I'm going to use this mic.
Yeah, they apparently struck this out here.
I'll tell you what I'll do, Joel. I'll do a song that, and I won't use the guitar. I'll just do this one a cappella. This is a song that Donella Meadows asked me to write, like a lot of my songs. She said, we need a song that has the word sustainability in it. And as a songwriter, I thought, oh my gosh. But she was my mentor, and I struggled, and how am I going to do this? And it finally did come out in time for actually her last birthday before she passed away. So I got to sing it to her, and then I sang it at her memorial service, and then I didn't sing it for a long time because it was kind of hard. But I've learned to sing it again, and I thought I'd give it to you as well. It's just a little, almost kind of a sustainability lullaby. Maybe a nice way to close our proceedings. So, like a boat that sails us home, like the star that leads us on, the compass we're sailing by, the place that we one day hope to see. Sustainability. We can save the things we love before they're gone. Sustainability. Let the beauty of the earth live on and on for generations. It's a science and an art. It's the dream in every heart, a vision we can't let go, a place that will someday set us free. Sustainability. We can save the things we love before they're gone. Sustainability. Let the beauty of the earth live on and on for generations, generations, generations.
AtKisson, everybody. That's a wrap. I can't say it any better than that. Thank you so much for being here. We'll see you next year, February 6th to 8th in this very hotel, 2018. Have a great trip back.